live. I don't know how much of that you caught, but the first thing I want to say, if you are watching this after the fact, please check the description below. It will be riddled with timestamps tonight. For those of you watching live, I know I'm late. I also know it's going to be worth it. I might even need to add a minute on the timer here, but I'll explain all of that when we go live. And yeah, in the meantime, enjoy the music. All right, I'm here. Wait, there we go. Holy shit. What an adventure it has been getting ready for tonight's stream. How's everyone doing? As for the tardiness, I am both sorry and not sorry. I apologize to those of you who have taken the time to be here consistently. It is now almost 20 past the hour. Holy shit. Thought you had missed and was down for... Nah. Hello, Meme Bra 666. Glad to see you. I went on quite the adventure in the process of preparing for tonight's stream. So let me just cut to the most impactful reason why I'm late tonight. Over the weeks, I have actually, it's been more than weeks. It's been roughly a month or so. I have been focusing on building the skill of being able to watch videos faster and faster and faster, okay? At some point, I will elaborate on how I did it. I'll give the two magic words to those of you who are familiar with bodybuilding or any kind of weight training. It's progressive overload. That's what I was doing for my ability to watch things faster. Now, one of the topics that we're going to cover tonight is the Facebook whistleblower who testified before a Senate committee today, and that video was 3.5 hours long. And I was able to watch it all. So, given the fact that I'm a one-man show and I do my own research, I am really proud that I was able to consume that video in its entirety and only be 20 minutes late for the show. We will get to that though. Let me see here. I fell asleep. I thought I'd be away. Yeah. Listen, I don't know how long we are going to be in this for. However, I'm going to skip this meme entirely. We're going to go right into the Facebook stuff. I'm going to split this into two sections. I'm going to talk about the outage and about the whistleblower, which is, to me, the most important part. And it is also why I'm probably just going to release the segment without, how can I say? I'm probably just going to release the segment without editing it and just riddle it with timestamps like I've been in the habit of doing lately. Let me do one thing though. I'm glad to see people here. Meme Ba 666. Okay, yeah. Like the animal that goes by. I think it's a sheep. Oh yeah, another thing that that you should probably know. It shouldn't impact tonight's show too much, but it is a fact. My body is weird in the sense that this morning I decided to wake up at 5:15, and I tried to fall back asleep, but I was unable to. So I laid there in bed for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I decided, you know what, if I'm not falling back to sleep, I'm just going to get up. Because if there's one thing that you do not want your brain to associate with your bed, it's just lying there awake trying to fall asleep. Sleeping or fucking. If you're not doing one of those two things, don't be in your bed. So I've been up since roughly 5:30-ish. Let me just write down some timestamps and we'll be able to slap something together here, and we'll drive this thing home. Okay. I'll at least put some music for you. Whoops. Hey, all mistakes are not my responsibility, even though I am literally in 100% control of everything that happens right now. Pending technical difficulties. Holy shit. I hope we don't run into too many of those tonight, because there's I have some timestamps from today's Senate committee hearing, and hopefully jumping back and forth through a YouTube video isn't gonna make my computer too angry. What was I doing? Yes, I wanted to prepare music. How about this? There we go. This'll work. All right. I'm almost done. All right. Let me just take another sip of water. That's enough for you. Hmm. Ah. Okay, yeah, the timestamps that I took were for the whistleblower. Holy shit, so many things have happened since yesterday concerning Facebook. So first of all, there was the little power outage. I don't know how many of you use Facebook and how intensely you do, but if you use Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp, and actually, even if you don't, through the people talking about it, you've heard wind of the outage that happened yesterday. I want to talk about that for a second. Where is it? Okay, yeah, I already have this. The main thing that I want to share are the memes because I believe that although although the outage was a mild inconvenience for me, it's really how can I say this? Some people were more impacted than others, and I'm very grateful that the impact on my life was so minimal. However, it was really fun watching all the memes happen. Let me see here. The first thing that I want to do, because as most of you are aware, especially those of you who have Twitter, Twitter was still up during all this, and the funniest meme, if I had to pick just one, would be this one right here. Whoops. There we go. Would be this one right here. Twitter is really toxic, and I can only imagine people who have heard of how toxic it is being introduced for the first time, like to get that personal firsthand knowledge of what it's like, and yeah, having being bored because Facebook and Instagram are down, and having this as a welcoming committee, top notch meme right here. Another meme happened. Actually, this is a screenshot. Fuck. Okay, you know what? I don't have the screenshot. However, I will still link to the actual tweet because on the SydStream we try to do our due diligence. And I originally saw a screenshot of this. Actually, I can probably still get it. Yeah, it's right here. Right here. Hello, literally everyone. I fucking love it. I don't know how many times I've said this explicitly, but the the height of success for a social media management for a company is when you can make your brand appear like a person. And I think that both Facebook and McDonald's here did an excellent job at capitulating or at capitalizing on a story that was on most everyone's minds, or at least the people who are on the internet. In the hello, literally everyone. Hey, what can I get you? 59.6 million nuggets from my friends. And I did verify it. It is absolutely true. Man, WhatsApp and Instagram, I'll give them an E for effort for actually chiming in on this. But yeah, the real king of this brands using an appearance of being human to market to people goes to Instagram. Goes to Twitter for this right here. Moving on. Hey, Notsun, glad you could make it. What else did I want to talk about before going into the meat, which is the whistleblower? Oh, I will. Okay, I'm going to start with Scott Adams and then finish with AOC because today on Coffee with Scott Adams, which as the regulars on this stream know, I am a huge fan of Scott Adams. I talk about him a lot. He has warranted his own splash screen. This morning, when he was talking about it, there was this one detail. You know, when your experiences and the things that you take for granted give you this unique perspective on situations. I think this clip that I'm about to play for you is a great example of how this played out in the case of Scott Adams. And for those of you who read the Dilbert comic, you're gonna have plenty of entertainment coming. Let me just adjust some things here. All right. Take it away, Scott.
The exact cause of the outage has not been confirmed by Facebook. But one expert said the problem may have been caused by an internal error made by staff that effectively erased the site from the internet. How do you erase the site from the internet? You do it this way. John Graham Cunningham, the CTO of web security firm Cloudflare, said Facebook made a series of updates to its border gateway protocol, which caused it to, quote, disappear from the internet. Okay, now maybe it's because I'm the Dilbert cartoonist and I can see a whole month of material coming, but here's the funny part. In all likelihood, there's one employee somewhere who knows they did this. Somewhere in this, 700 some billion people, there's one poor bastard who knows he pushed the wrong button and made Facebook disappear from the internet.
One more thing.
Trying to think of this poor guy's performance review in a few months.
So this is actually this is interesting to me as someone who does improv. Is the notion of taking a situation and projecting it. Like, not only are you realizing that it's very likely that there's one person who's responsible for all of this, and to take that situation and project it forward to what would this person's review look like, that's the kind of thing that I would not have thought of. But for the Dilbert guy, it comes to term. All right, we're almost done.
Sitting down with his boss. Sitting down with his boss. How'd your quarter go? So, what did you accomplish this quarter? Well, we've been seeing a lot of bad publicity. We've been seeing a lot of bad publicity about how Facebook is destroying youth and hurting people and hurting people's self-esteem, and it's causing a lot of damage. But I stopped that shit. So here's the irony. Whoever it is who pushed the wrong button and erased Facebook from the internet Whoever did that uh, did more good for the world than any politician, except maybe Rand Paul, for the last year. It's the only good thing that anybody's ever done at Facebook. And he's going to get fired for it. Oh. Well, if you couldn't tell, I finally got enough good sleep last night.
All right, that's enough of that. Okay. We got a lot of clips to go through. It's going to be a more clip-heavy show than the usual. Just want to make sure. Oh, speaking of clips, holy shit. I noticed this yesterday. Let me just close a couple tabs here. Do I need this? No. I do not need this anymore either. This I will need. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I did a segment on AOC wearing that tax the rich dress, and I always get in heat when I say this, but I'm gonna say it again because I think yesterday was provided another example of this. AOC is like the Donald Trump of the left. People who hate. People who like AOC get triggered by Trump. People who like Trump get triggered by AOC. Please put their values, the values and the things that this person believes in aside for a second. I'm talking about the tactics and the way that they can capitalize on. They're both masters at using contemporary tools to maximize attention on them and thus advocate for their message. And yesterday, after Instagram came back up, one thing that I keep forgetting to mention, AOC is literally the first politician that I've ever seen do an Instagram live. Now, maybe there have been others who have done it before her, and I'm pretty sure there have been people who have done Instagram live in the sense of some staffer is holding the politician's phone and filming their stump speech or whatever. When I say that she was doing an Instagram live, I mean fucking phone to the face in her kitchen, talking to people, interacting with her chat. I had never seen anyone do this before AOC. And yeah, that's just one example. But yesterday, she, I honestly would say that this is a masterstroke on her part. This is, wait. This is a perfect example of seeing some money on the ground and picking it up where other people would otherwise just walk by it. Unfortunately, Instagram Reels can't be rewound. Let's do this like that. Let's try to refresh and see if that helps.
If your life was disrupted by the Facebook outage today, and say you couldn't communicate with loved ones because WhatsApp was down, or maybe your career or your small business took a hit because Instagram was down, and Facebook, and both of these, frankly, were successful independent apps until Facebook identified them as a competitive threat and decided to purchase them due to monopolistic anti-competitive behavior. Maybe we should be asking ourselves why one company is trying to monopolize the internet, communication platforms, and digital commerce, and maybe we should break them up. If your life was disrupted by
the message combined with the opportunity combined with the use of the Zoom like TikTok style, she's very good at her craft. I just wanted to point that out as yet another example of AOC just fucking killing it as far as marketing and advocating for her message in using contemporary ways that get people to give her free advertising like I just did. What else? Is that it for the outage? Was that it for the outage? Yeah, that's going to have to be it for the outage. So, Git Gaffa. I don't know what Git Gaffa means. So let me see here. I don't have. Yeah, okay. I'm going to prepare 2 things, and then we should be off to the races. Oh, actually, I'll prepare this in advance too. It won't be too long. Okay, just put this. Oh, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, GAFA. Nice. All right. Since I'm here, I might as well queue up the first timestamp that I'm going to need, which is this one here. Okay, that'll do. So, all right, I'm going to hit record. Take one last sip of water, and then we're off to the races, buddy. Oh, actually, before I start, when I said that I watched the entire 3.5 hour video, my cruising speed was about 2.2x. I could handle most people at that, but not only was I watching, I was taking notes too, which is why it took longer than half of 3.5 hours. Just a sec. So I have this mind map here that I drew. Well, it's mainly drawing, and there wasn't enough, so I had to start a second page here. And there were a couple notes that I took directly in the Notion document that I'm going to be reading off of. So just to make sure that I cover everything before I move on to another section, I'm going to just look at my notes to see. Actually, better place. I appreciate your patience. Give me a sec. Yeah, much better. Okay. Frances Hagen. Okay. Okay. This is in the right spot. Actually, now it's even better. So, on top of the outage that happened yesterday, there was a whistleblower who was interviewed on 60 Minutes this weekend, named Frances Hagen. And not only was she interviewed on 60 Minutes, she had been leaking documents for a while now. And what happened on Sunday was the big reveal of who the whistleblower slash leaker was. And the other thing that makes yesterday's Facebook outage interesting is the timing between that seeming accident. This is a breaking story, so it would be irresponsible to speculate with too much certainty as to what happened. But Frances spoke and testified for over 3 hours at the in front of the Senate today. And first of all, for those of you who are watching this after the fact, thank you. If there's something interesting that you want to see, or something in particular that you're interested in, I invite you to check the description below for timestamps, because I will put as many as I reasonably can, because this is very important information. And I'm going to do my best to synthesize what was discussed today in front of the Senate. I will start with the TLDR, okay? The TLDR is the root of the problem with Facebook and the damage that it causes to children in particular. Although we are all subject to this, it's really about the children. The key to the problem is the inadequacies of AI and the human incentives. So taking it piece by piece, the problem with the AI is that if you rely on it too much, it's too easy for the AI to miss things that you would want it to catch, which is why things like misinformation and hate speech and ads that target children are not as easy to fight with AI alone as one would like it to be. Not only that, the incentives on the part of Facebook are skewed in a way where they on their own will probably never solve this, or not even try, as their past behavior has indicated. And also the fact that there are bonuses within Facebook. There are some executives whose bonuses are tied to performance metrics, which are affected by this, which gives them a financial incentive to, when the public good is in conflict with their bonus, it is too easy for them to choose the money. Right. And that is why Frances blew the whistle, and that is why she testified in front of the Senate today. So, having led with this, I will now rewind a little for those of you who are here to talk about a couple memes, because when I saw this, first of all, yesterday, just before Facebook went out, I was aware of this whistleblower story, and I decided to meme. Man, I thought that this tweet would do better. However, I guess the mistake that I made was to not add information of the whistleblower. I thought people would just look for her name, but when especially another thing about this timing is that Project Veritas released another video where one of their journalists seduced some people at Pfizer and got them to talk about things on camera. And the timing of Frances blowing the whistle, having just seen the Project Veritas stuff, I thought this tweet is a banger. Like, I wonder why Frances Hagen didn't go to Project Veritas. Weird, with the little Kirk animated GIF. I thought this was funny. And another thing that I want to mention, and this came out today, and this also comes to Project Veritas. Like, I don't watch the quartering. I could go on a whole side rant on the quartering. The long and short of it is, I watched him for a while, and I stopped. And I'm embarrassed by how long it took me to realize that his content really wasn't for me. However, today, he tweeted this, where apparently there is some kind of GoFundMe for Frances Haugen, which has a $100,000 goal. And in his irony, sarcasm, cynicism, he tweeted, ha 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 ha, because of course. And I tweeted, fortunately, having covered the whistleblower economy that Project Veritas is setting up for itself, I tweeted like, are you sure this is the angle that you want to go with? Followed by 3 links to people, one of which actually works with Facebook, who, since blowing the whistle to Project Veritas, has raised $500,000. So if you want, like, of all the angles that you want to go for, I'm not sure this one is it, Chief. Now that we've covered the memes, let's go to the actual testimony in front of the Senate. So, yeah, I didn't. Okay, yeah, this should be useful. So, let's lead with what to most of you will be the most important part, and I agree. It is the impact on teenagers. So, some of you may have seen leaked studies of how Facebook, through internal studies, was aware of the damage that they're doing to teenagers, particularly teenage girls, and how things like Instagram cause them to leads them to poor mental health, usually stuff like body issues. And one of the things that was covered is also targeted ads. I want to show a clip of this demonstrates the inadequacies of AI to solve this problem, along with the kind of vulnerabilities that are open when people try to test the limits of what they can get away with. Let's take a listen.
As we get into this, I want to first read you a quote that I got from Ms. Davis last week. Here's what she said during her questioning.
So just to give a bit more context, someone from Facebook who is not a whistleblower was standing before the Senate, and yeah, Senator Mike Lee here is quoting his conversation with her. That's the needed context. Let's continue.
Quote, when we do ads to young people, there are only three things that an advertiser can target around: age, gender, location. We also prohibit certain ads to young people, including weight loss ads. We don't allow tobacco ads at all, meaning to young people. We don't allow them to children. We don't allow them to minors, close quote. Now, since that exchange happened last week, there are a number of individuals and groups, including a group called the Technology Transparency Project, or TTP, that have indicated that that part of her testimony was inaccurate, that it was false. TTP noted that TTP had conducted an experiment just last month, and their goal was to run a series of ads that would be targeted to children ages 13 to 17, to users in the United States. Now, I want to emphasize that TTP didn't end up running these ads. They stopped them from being distributed to users. But Facebook did, in fact, approve them. And as I understand it, Facebook approved them for an audience of up to 9.1 million users, all of whom were teens. So I brought a few of these to show you today. This is the first one I wanted to showcase. This first one has a colorful graphic encouraging kids to, quote, throw a Skittles party like no other. Which,
yeah.
You know, as the graphic indicates, and as the slang jargon also independently suggests, this involves kids getting together randomly to abuse prescription drugs.
Actually, I'm curious about this. Let me just take a couple seconds to do some fact finding here. Skittles party, Urban Dictionary. What I like about Urban Dictionary, yeah, okay, there it is. First definition. A party where a bunch of teenagers or young adults get together with a lot of random pills, usually taken from parents' medicine cabinets, They put them all into a pile and everyone takes a few. You don't know exactly what you take. Holy shit. Okay. The objection that I am tempted to bring up, Frances will bring this up herself, which is why I'm letting this run. Let's continue. Oh, and before I press play again, Anna is slang for anorexia. So he's going to say it anyway, but I just wanted to point that out in advance.
The second graphic displays an anatip. That is, a tip specifically designed to encourage and promote anorexia. And it's on there. Now, the language, the anatip itself, independently promotes that. The ad also promotes it, insofar as it was suggesting these are images you ought to look at when you need motivation to be more anorexic, I guess you could say. Now, the third one invites children to find their partner online and to make a love connection. You look lonely, find your partner now to make a love connection. Now look, it'd be an entirely different kettle of fish if this were targeted to an adult audience. It is not. It's targeted to 13 to 17-year-olds. Now, obviously, I don't support, and TDP does not support these messages, particularly when targeted to impressionable children. And again, just to be clear, TDP did not end up pushing the ads out after receiving Facebook's approval. But it did, in fact, receive Facebook's approval. So I think this says something. One could argue that it proves that Facebook is allowing and perhaps facilitating the targeting of harmful adult-themed ads to our nation's children.
Yeah, that's hard to argue against.
Please explain to me, Ms. Haugen, how these ads with a target audience of 13 to 17-year-old children, how would they possibly be approved by Facebook? And is AI involved in that?
I did not work directly on the ad approval system. What was resonant for me about your testimony is Facebook has a deep focus on scale. So scale is, can we do things very cheaply for a huge number of people, which is part of why they rely on AI so much. It is very possible that none of those ads were seen by a human. And the reality is that we've seen from repeated documents within my disclosures is that Facebook's AI systems only catch a very tiny minority of offending content. And best case scenario, in the case of something like hate speech, at most they will ever get 10 to 20%. In the case of children, that means drug paraphernalia ads like that. It's likely if they rely on computers and not humans, they will also likely never get more than 10 to 20% of those ads.
Understood.
So yeah, 10 to 20% is optimistic, which is absolutely insane. Let me just free up some resources here. I'm noticing that. Okay, cool. Okay, great. The stream looked choppy on YouTube on my end, but we're gonna soldier on. So continuing. Actually, wait. Okay, yes. So the other point that I wanted to talk about is the how the notion of engagement-based ranking. Okay, so this is like the metric that algorithms, like this is what they call it at Facebook, but any social media app has a similar concept within it. So engagement-based ranking is what how an algorithm determines what it will present to you, because as you're undoubtedly aware at this point, every social media app, I would argue that Facebook and YouTube are the two best at it. They're kind of like creating a profile of you and trying to decide what you would like to see. And the thing that I had not taken into account, which to me, quite frankly, blew my mind, was the notion that one of the goals of the rankings of the ranking system is not only to keep the viewer on the platform for as long as possible, but it is to incentivize the content creator because, and I'm sure if you've used social media, you have been subject to this phenomena. When you make content and post it on social media and someone likes it and it gets a lot of engagement, that gives you a dopamine squirt in your brain and incentivizes you to make more content like that. So one of the perverse effects of the way that engagement-based ranking works in Facebook, and I'm sure we can generalize a lot of this to social media in general, is that since it is easier to get people to engage with anger and other negative emotions, that creates a vicious cycle of people who create content who are after that rush of dopamine, and also the algorithmic rewards of having your content served to a bunch of people. They also get incentivized to make more and more extreme content. And I had not thought of that from the perspective of a content creator, even though earlier in this very segment, I was fucking complaining about how a tweet of mine didn't get as much engagement as I thought it deserved, you know? So this is an illustration of how this phenomenon kind of permeates social media to the point where we kind of take it for granted. Did you see Brian Stelter interview the Facebook exec and use the metaphor of tobacco and nicotine addiction? The exec fell over himself trying to break the metaphor, but couldn't do it. Absolutely. Well, actually, I didn't see the interview. However, the comparison to big tobacco was made all over the place, including the Senate hearing that I watched earlier, that happened earlier today. So I will move on to another clip here. Wait. Yeah, exactly. I just covered this. So let me move to a clip that happens earlier here. If the connection goes choppy again, I apologize, but we're going to soldier on here. It is. Okay. So actually, this is this is probably going to be Frances explaining what I just explained about content-based ranking. Wait, engagement-based ranking in a much more thorough detail, because just so you know, have an idea of her credentials, she was a project manager and she worked on maybe not as a technical person, but as someone who was working intimately with them for years. So in my mind, there's no doubt as to her credentials, even though if you presented her with lines of code, you know, that's secondary. All right, let me stop passive aggressively undermining her and play the clip.
Where they have confirmed this.
So
Yeah.
you and your part of the information you provided the Wall Street Journal, it's been found that Facebook altered its algorithm in an attempt to boost these meaningful social interactions, or MSI. But rather than strengthening bonds between family and friends on the platform, the algorithm instead rewarded more outrage and sensationalism. And I think Facebook would say that its algorithms are used to connect individuals with other friends and family that are largely positive. Do you believe that Facebook's algorithms make its platform a better place for most users, and should consumers have the option to use Facebook and Instagram without being manipulated by algorithms designed to keep them engaged on that platform?
Before I play your answer, I just want to point out Twitter, and I fucking give them props for that, as toxic as it is. Twitter gives you the option to turn off their algorithm and just have like a chronological feed. I've tried it, and honestly, I prefer the algorithm. However, I'm an adult, okay? Let me continue with Frances's answer here.
I strongly believe, like I've spent most of my career working on systems like engagement-based ranking. Like when I come to you and say these things, I'm basically damning 10 years of my own work, right? Engagement-based ranking, Facebook says we can do it safely because we have AI. The artificial intelligence will find the bad content that we know our engagement-based ranking is promoting. They've written blog posts on how they know engagement-based ranking is dangerous, but the AI will save us. Facebook's own research says they cannot adequately identify dangerous content, and as a result, those dangerous algorithms that they admit are picking up the extreme sentiments, the division. They can't protect us from the harms that they know exist in their own system. And so I don't think it's just a question of saying, should people have the option of choosing to not be manipulated by their algorithms? I think if we had appropriate oversight, or if we reformed 230 to make Facebook responsible for the consequences of their intentional ranking decisions,
More on that in a
I
sec.
think they would get rid of engagement-based ranking, because it is causing teenagers to be exposed to more anorexia content. It is pulling families apart. And in places like Ethiopia, it's literally fanning ethnic violence. I encourage reform of these platforms, not picking and choosing individual ideas, but instead making the platforms themselves safer, less twitchy, less reactive, less viral, because that's how we scalably solve these problems.
Thank you. Ms. Chair, I would...
So yeah, a phrase that she uses a lot throughout her testimony is the twitchiness, and I believe that this is my understanding of it is that she's alluding to the knee-jerk reaction that the AI has in or that the algorithm has in determining, like, oh, this content gets a lot of engagement, I'm going to serve it up to a lot of people, or Charlie likes this kind of information. Oh, someone just posted this kind of thing, I'm going to put it in Charlie's feed, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really fascinating to contemplate how, although Facebook is aware of this, even if they wanted to, put a stop to it, in an optimistic sense, it would catch 10 to 20% of the things that they want to stop. However, I want to circle back to something when she, because there's a lot of talk about reforming Article 230 or Section 230 or however it's called. I just want to make it crystal clear, because I don't think I queued up the clip for this. The reforms that she is proposing for Section 230 is of the algorithms. So the logic is Facebook does not have control over the content that you and I post on it. However, they have 100% control over their algorithm. And even though when Frances said, like, to make them responsible for the consequences of their actions, she's not talking about being like a publisher. She's talking about reining in their fucking algorithm. Because that is something that they can control. So that I just wanted to really stress that. Let me go back to my notes here. Actually, yeah. So the speaking of the reforms that she's proposing, this is what I want to talk about a little right now. So I just want to give a nutshell of the things that she's proposing that she would like to see, and then we can play 3 more clips, and then I'll discuss and share my own thoughts on this. So the summary of the things that she's proposing is better sharing of research with oversight committees or oversight entities and academia, so that we can better manage the problems that this entails, and also including friction of like, quote unquote, forcing people to share to click on a link before they share it. That little extra friction will be able to will be able to stop the spread, to slow the spread of misinformation, kind of like a certain medical procedure that is at the front of a lot of people's minds. It won't necessarily stop the thing that we want, but the idea is that it adds enough friction to mitigate the spread of this brain virus. Actually, I just wanted to demonstrate this because Twitter does something very similar, and it is so easy to duplicate that. Let's do it right now. Let me just go right here. Twitter doesn't force me to click on a link. However, I noticed this change a while ago, and the first time it happened, I fucking really appreciated it. So again, I wouldn't necessarily say, I think there can be perverse side effects in forcing people to click on links when they share it. However, look at what happens when I try to retweet this Reuters article here. Boom. You see how this says, would you like to read the article first? The first time that I tried to retweet an article that I hadn't read, I really appreciated that this little pop-up was here. And I think that this could be a better compromise between, because forcing people to click on a link is gameable, but just like making the person mindful that, hey, you're about to share something that you haven't read. What do you think about that? Again, the first time I encountered this, I really appreciated it, and I would be totally fine to see something like this on social media in general. Let me go back to my notes. Actually, you know what? Since we're talking about reform, let me just go to my notes here to make sure that because I would say that the things that she proposes are probably the most important parts. So I just want to make sure that I don't forget anything. So I already covered about how when she talks about reforming Article 230 or Section 230, she's talking about the algorithm, not the content. And where else? Oh, okay. This is a concept that she brings up over and over again throughout her testimony, is the concept of having human scalable content instead of computer-driven content, because an algorithm is just a fancy way of calculating a number and arriving at a result that you want to either maximize or minimize, right? Or get as close as possible within a range, which is minimizing the distance between where you're at and where you want to be, right? So that is a concept at the high level that she brings up over and over again. The focus on humanity or human beings being in control of what is being served to people over an algorithm. Another thing, wait. I don't know what that means. Oh yeah, something that I want to stress, or that I want to make sure I don't forget to say. Remember earlier when I was talking about AOC and her Instagram reel where she said, maybe we should break up Facebook. Someone in this hearing, and I'm gonna link to the whole thing in the description, don't worry. But someone in the committee asked her, do you think breaking up Facebook would be a solution? And Frances said, given the problem that we're facing, breaking up Facebook would not be a solution to this particular problem. Like maybe from a, socialism good, capitalism bad, ooh, woo standpoint, maybe, breaking up Facebook would make AOC happy. But as far as the problem that Frances is trying to solve, that Frances blew the whistle on, she pretty explicitly said that breaking up Facebook would not solve that problem. Because, between one AI or like 3 different AIs doing the same thing. I can see that, and I'm pretty sure that when whatever senator asked her that question, I said no right before she even started answering, but I have confirmation bias, so take that for what it's worth. What else? I don't understand my notes here, so I will cue up the next clip here. Where is it? Is this what we just watched? Wait, let me. No, it is not. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So coming back on the propositions, I'm gonna cue up a part where she summarizes this, and it is at this timestamp right here. Oh yeah, she's being interviewed by Ted Cruz, and yeah, I'm laughing because the meme of Lion Ted was so strong that when I saw him for the first time, I said Lion Ted out loud, and I thought that was really funny. But this is serious business, so let me just cue it up more specifically. And we can go. Yeah, this should do. All right, let's go.
Documents that were freely available in the company, so I am not aware of that.
Okay. Do you have thoughts as to what kind of changes Facebook could make to reduce or eliminate these harms?
You mentioned earlier concerns around free speech. A lot of the things that I advocate for are around changing the mechanisms of amplification, not around picking winners and losers in the marketplace of ideas. The problems
so explain what that means.
Oh, sure. So like I mentioned before, you know, like how on Twitter, if you have to click through on a link before you reshare it, small actions like that friction don't require picking good ideas and bad ideas. They just make the platform less twitchy, less reactive. And Facebook's internal research says that each one of those small actions dramatically reduces misinformation, hate speech, and violence inciting content on the platform.
So, and we're running out of time, but on the second major topic of concern of Facebook, which is censorship, based on what you've seen, are you concerned about political censorship at Facebook and in big tech?
I believe you cannot have a system that has as big an impact on society as Facebook does today, with as little transparency as it does. I'm a strong proponent of chronological ranking, ordering by time with a little bit of spam demotion, because I think we don't want computers deciding what we focus on. We should have software that is human scaled, where humans have conversations together, not computers facilitating who we get to hear from.
So how could we get more transparency? What would produce that?
I strongly encourage the development of some kind of regulatory body that could work with academics, work with researchers, work with other government agencies to synthesize requests for data that are privacy conscious. This is an area that I'm really passionate about. And because right now, no one can force Facebook to disclose data. And Facebook has been stonewalling us, or even worse, they gave inaccurate data to researchers, as the scandal recently showed.
What data should they turn over? My time's expired, so.
For example, even data as simple as what integrity systems exist today and how well do they perform? Like, there are lots and lots of people who Facebook is conveying around the world that Facebook safety systems apply to their language, and those people aren't aware that they're using a raw, original dangerous version of Facebook. Just basic actions like transparency would make a huge difference.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's something that I almost would have forgot to mention. These algorithmic breaks, breaks as in slowing down momentum. Essentially, people who use Facebook in another language than English are at a huge disadvantage because of the return on investment in teaching these mechanisms to process content in other languages. The return isn't nearly as big. So as ineffective as the AI is in English to process this, we've heard the metric, the number of 10 to 20% when it's working well. As good as ineffective as it is in English, in other languages, it's kind of like the Wild West, where, and that's kind of what she alluded to when she was saying in an earlier clip how this is literally like encouraging violence in other countries abroad. Is that since it's so easily gameable, someone can post it's much easier for someone in, say, Africa to post false information in a way that is going to encourage people seeing it to show up at a neighboring village with weapons, and that would lead to a potential tragedy, all for something that a 10 to 20% buff isn't a game changer, but it can be, so to not even have that in other languages is even more dangerous. So what else did I want to talk about? Omo Shango, I'm glad you're here. Breck, I did see The Social Dilemma. I enjoyed it. I don't have that much to add right now. There is something else that I wanted to share. You know what? Let's just go to the final section here. So that's 257. Because this drives a lot of it home, and I want to. Yeah, okay, cool. So I fucking love everything that Frances is doing. I just want to mention that I'm going to leave Todd Young's question out because as much as I like what Frances is about to say, I don't feel that she was actually answering the question that he asked. Therefore, it's not relevant, which is why I'm not including it. But this is important, so I am playing it on screen right now.
The patterns that children establish in their teenage years live with them for the rest of their lives. The way they conceptualize who they are, how they conceptualize how they interact with other people, are patterns and habits that they will take with them as they become adults, as they themselves raise children. I'm very scared about the upcoming generation because when you and I interact in person and I say something mean to you and I see you wince or I see you cry, that makes me less likely to do it the next time. Right, that's a feedback cycle. Online kids don't get those cues and they learn to be incredibly cruel to each other and they normalize it. And I'm scared of what will their lives look like where they grow up with the idea that it's okay to be treated badly by people who allegedly care about them. That's a scary future.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna share a quick anecdote here because I'm old, I'm in my 40s, right? So what made this resonate with me is that although I was well out of high school by the time social media became a thing, I was a techie in the sense that, and again, I had graduated high school by this point, but towards the end of high school and the beginning of let's call it junior college or whatever. CEGEP exists only in Quebec. I don't know how to translate that outside. But during that period in the late 90s, I had grown accustomed to, my computer had a modem and I was connecting to like BBSs and communicating with strangers digitally that way. And I had noticed that over the years, during the 2 to 4 years that followed, there was I had noticed a phenomena where I would start interacting with my friends the same way that I would interact with random strangers. And that did translate in ways where I was needlessly harsh, needlessly cruel to friends of mine. And this was before social media. And I remember a particular email exchange where, because email was new, email was the thing, email was our Facebook. And I remember this exchange where it culminated in me replying in all caps, calling one of my friends an idiot. And then another one of my friends replied and said, Sid, I don't think it's cool for you to be yelling at your friends like this. And that was a real moment for me, where I'm like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. I forget how this particular email exchange in the 90s happened, but I remember vividly the being presented with my own behavior. Like, you know what Frances was saying, that if I'm cruel to you, I see you wince, and I know not to do that again. My friend just calling me out like that was the equivalent of him wincing, and yeah, I can only imagine how being in your teens in the social media age, being subjected to these algorithms where your body is flooded with hormones and you're trying to figure yourself out. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So I will just continue this clip to answer, to show the next question that the senator asks her.
Very scary future. And I see some evidence of that as to so many parents on a regular basis. Are there other specific issues of significant consequence that the general public may not be fully aware of that are impacting vulnerable groups that you'd just like to elevate during this testimony?
One of the things that's hard for people who don't look at the data of social networks every day is of harms or just of usage. That there are these things called power laws. It means that a small number of users are extremely intensely engaged on any given topic, and most people are just lightly engaged. When you look at things like misinformation, Facebook knows that the people who are exposed to the most misinformation are people who are recently widowed,
Oh, this is fucked up.
moved to a new city, are isolated in some other way. When I worked on civic misinformation, we discussed the idea of the misinformation burden, like the idea that when people are exposed to ideas that are not true over and over again, it erodes their ability to connect with the community at large because they no longer adhere to facts that are consensus reality. The fact that Facebook knows that its most vulnerable users, people who were recently widowed, like that they're isolated, that the systems that are meant to keep them safe, like demoting misinformation, stop working when people look at 2,000 posts a day, right? And it breaks my heart, the idea that these rabbit holes would suck people down and then make it hard to connect with others.
So, Ms.
All right. So the last thing that I want to show, and this is the last clip, I had to show you this because, you know, when I think that this is indicative of how scared Facebook is. I don't think this is something that you do when you're confident, and it is also an example of how, holy shit, when you're it is surprising to me that a company like Facebook would commit such a gigantic optics blunder. Like this blunder is so severe. It's like, it's almost as if Facebook was an online leftist. Like, that is how bad this optics gaffe is. It is insane to me. I will let this clip play. I forget which senator noticed this text from a Facebook spokesperson while this testimony is taking place, but holy shit, why the fuck would you give a senator such an easy layup? Let's watch.
I have a text that was just put up by Facebook's spokesperson, Andy
delightful.
Stone. It says, just pointing out the fact that Frances Haugen did not work on child safety or Instagram or research these issues and has no direct knowledge of the topic from her work at Facebook.
Look at that
So
smirk.
I will simply say this to Mr. Stone. If Facebook wants to discuss their targeting of children, if they want to discuss their practices of privacy invasion or violations of the Children Online Privacy Act, I am extending to you an invitation to step forward, be sworn in, and testify before this committee. We would be pleased to hear from you and welcome your testimony.
Yeah. Holy shit. And I just want to, like, this is, I don't know how intimately she worked with that department. Wait, let me just find it again. Actually, let's play it again.
Part.
Ah, crap. I accidentally started it. Well, that's it for that segment. All right. So let me just make sure. Okay. So I'm going to just share some of my thoughts and then we can wrap it up and wrap up this whole stream. Thank you so much to those of you who are still watching, both here live and after the fact. So it all comes down to how do we solve this problem? One thing that is absolutely obvious is that Facebook isn't going to solve it. Corporations aren't going to solve it. This is not, you know, as was mentioned during the hearing. The leaders at Facebook have bonuses that are tied to these metrics. So if a reduction, and there was an anecdote at some point of even a reduction of 0.1% in some instances would have the leaders and ultimately Mark Zuckerberg deciding not to do it. And that in itself, like if we're talking about a reduction of 1% or less, and the person responsible for making this decision, choosing the money over, you know, the common good, for lack of a better word, this is, to me, irrefutable proof that they can't be trusted. So it's obvious the corporations are going to solve this. Now, the weird thing to me is that I don't trust governments to solve this either. Like, it's all about, you know, having CEOs pocket the money directly versus having CEOs spend money on lobbying to have politicians do their bidding, you know. However, one thing is for sure, it is difficult for me to imagine this getting being much worse. I can see that if at least, because Facebook has tons of studies that they've done internally, and whenever any kind of supervision would come to them, they would fucking seal up, you know. So if at least having some way to penetrate the information that they themselves have collected on themselves can help out, that would. It's difficult for me to imagine this being worse than it is now in the short to midterm. There are arguments to be said, and Frances presented one in the 3.5-hour video, that making these changes might actually make Facebook more profitable in the long run because of people, you know, a less toxic environment makes it less likely that people will stop using it. I'm paraphrasing very poorly. Again, the link to the full hearing will be below. But yeah, it's one of those things where you've stepped in it, And now it's a question of what are you going to do about it? And the fact is, there are, young people, especially young girls, who have barely figured themselves out yet, or barely started figuring themselves out yet, who are being subject to algorithms where very easily, actually, this is another thing that I forgot to mention. One of the senators set up a fake 14-year-old account, and it took under a day for, this fake account to start with simple things like diet habits. And within a day, they were being presented things, anorexia tips and things like that. And I also want to mention that, the minimum age to be able to create a Facebook account is 13. When they did a purge of accounts that were under 13 years old, there were over 600,000 accounts. So as much as you can't have a Facebook when you're under 13, enough 13-year-olds are finding ways around that. And I don't know what the best solution is. I'm not sure Congress can find an adequate solution. But one thing is for sure, having fucking 13-year-olds being subjected to algorithms which have incentives to, the algorithm is incentivized to amplify their interests to the point where within a day, a fake 14-year-old can be presented with anorexia tips. This might be a case where, since the mechanism is there anyway, to at least try reform. So if you're still watching, thank you very much for your patience and your understanding. I thought this was very important. I invite you to share this video with people who you think should see it. Thank you so much for your patience once again, and I'll see you soon. Well, that is a wrap. Holy shit. It is 20 to midnight. Not only did I start the show late, but it's going long. I'm not playing Stardew Valley. I think that goes without saying. Holy shit. To the 4 of you who are still here, thank you so much. I hope this was of value to you. It was a struggle preparing for this, but I enjoyed it. And I look forward to the next time I get to do this. I have to get back to I'm in my 40s too. Nice, Omochango. Thank you very much for writing that. And thank you to everyone who is still here. Y'all know what this music means. It's way too loud. There we go. That'll be good. Another one in the books, folks. It is very hard not to be cynical about improving this. I agree with you, Breck. And on that note, I'm gonna hit the hay after putting the timestamps, which is very important too. Man, I appreciate y'all so much. I'll see you soon.